Welcome everybody to our Q&A number 2. It's been a really good thing, organised by the club. So well done to everyone that's done that. In our first edition, for those that you're on the first edition, we had about 30 people were logged in, and about 30 individual computers, and about 40 people. So that was terrific. So we thought we'd come back again. Given we've had a relatively small turnover in the senior playing list, and we should be thereabouts again this year, has there been any feedback from the Footy Commission on other recruiting restrictions being eased? What we've done is definitely brought this to their attention and said that obviously with where the whole range of things are going on, restrictions for Subiaco should be the last thing on your mind. They agree privately, we just need to get them to do it publicly. So hopefully we'll obviously this year's run and done, but from here on in, we'd like to see that knocked over.
Most fondest memory of my time at Subi, and I've sort of been around the club for a long, long time, probably half my playing career, and then and always sort of on the outside watching in when I wasn't there. But the fondest memory would have to be the 1986 grand final win, being the last one before the West Coast team sort of started off. The only sort of dismal side to it was Mark Zonti stole the Simpson off me, but apart from that, it was a wonderful memory. But a lot further to that is obviously I had great success and personal achievements are the smaller part of it, but the F&Bs I picked up were wonderful. And other than that, probably every Saturday night after the game, it was a glorious place to be, and really enjoyed my time at Subi.
The first one from Glenn was, what do our players do and how do we know that we are training harder and longer? So without being able to have any control over what any other clubs do, I guess the fact that we take a lot of confidence that the results have shown that we were able to be in games for long periods of time. So we can't know exactly what how other clubs prepare, but we take a lot of confidence out of how we feel going into second halves and last quarters, and how we've probably started back in 2015. I guess we probably weren't great in third quarters, and how we'd come out just after half time. But from there on, I think we've been really strong, and we finished games really strongly. So without definitively knowing what other clubs do to prepare, I guess one way is through the results and how we've been able to finish games. And I guess the other way we know is just from feedback. So when we've had a large proportion of, I guess, the state league or the state squad over the last few years have been made up of Subiaco players, it changes the dynamic of the training a little bit. So I guess we can get feedback from other players who are part of training sessions, which have a big contingent of Subi players, having a large influence over those training sessions and preparations before games, that we train at a level that might be different to some clubs, and gives us a bit of an advantage at some stages, I guess.
The ridiculous unfair restrictions on the Subi. From the Commission, I hear there may be an option for AFL players to come back to their club of origin when they finish playing AFL. Does this also apply to the Subi Footy Club? And will Subi Footy Club have a wider zone? That's probably a two-part question. I'll get Bo to answer about AFL players coming back to the club, or Kitch to talk about how much we all actually like that. The rule that currently at the moment is there's a real chance that two things are going to happen in the AFL system. One is that the draft age is going to increase, and I think that's the most likely outcome in my time in waffle footy. It's the strongest it's ever been. It's getting a great deal of support. I was on a state footy the meeting tonight with the state steering committee, and the Footy Commission are fully supportive of the draft age going up, and they're all thinking that it might even, the numbers of being 20 have been talked about. So that might not apply to the whole lot, and might only apply to the second or the third round or whatever it happens to be. But really encouraging for our level of football, having younger players playing for longer. So that's a great thing. So and probably back to your question was AFL players coming back. Well, with lists being cut to 35, unfortunately there'll be some players that won't be on lists. Hopefully none of those are Subi players coming back to us, because we want our Subi players to be playing at AFL clubs. But if they weren't, that'd be a good thing, I'm assuming, Bo.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the guys that we've had drafted, and probably leads into next question that I had there, but the players that we've been able to get drafted over the last 2 or 3 years and get into the AFL system, we want to stay there. But obviously, if they do find their way back to Subiaco, we'd certainly welcome them with open arms, and we know that what got them to AFL level will ensure that they're great players for our club going into the future. Which and obviously all those things are unknown. We're doing a bit of planning around what could happen and what could unfold. But certainly, being in a position that we are to continually transition guys into our senior program and then into the AFL is probably we've over exceeded the district size that obviously gets talked about at certain times. I've got a question here from Gary Goddard. How overrated the AFL is, all about the money in brackets, and to somehow try and get the state leagues back up to where they should be. So Gary, I think first off, I would touch on the standard and the style of play that exists within the waffle competition, and I don't think it's ever been as strong as what it is now. Certainly the week-to-week crowds aren't probably as strong, and the waffle probably doesn't get as much media coverage as certainly what it does within the AFL. But I think the dynamic could change, and we've certainly as a club and putting our position forward with regards to this season and going forward is that the waffle has a great opportunity to realign itself with the community and to realign itself and its footprint within the WA football landscape. And hopefully we can, through attracting more people within our community back to Subiaco or back to the waffle competition and other clubs, it will create that real vibrant atmosphere in and around the games to match the standard of play that the players put out every week. I suppose the competition's got upwards of 600 or 700 players across reserves and league competitions that put a huge amount of work in. So all I can do is encourage our members and sponsors to invite friends and colleagues along to games to really experience it and put the waffle competition back at the forefront of everyone's minds.
Yeah, it's probably a roll on from the last one, really, and it's really about who I'd keep in touch with from the 86 team and sort of prior to that. I suppose Subi, when being on the board, means I'm at most games, and you get to see guys sort of float back through the club from time to time. When we do have reunions, the boys, particularly 86, I suppose we thought it was a pretty important win, and they make a real effort to get back. And I still catch up probably with Phil Scotts and Laurie Keanes, Toddy Bremens around the club. But certainly, they're all doing well. Sparksy sort of moved off to the West Coast, although he might be coming back for a job with us because he's obviously finished up there for the time being. Clinton Brown gets to a few games and goes well. The Taylor brothers we see from time to time. Mark Zanotti, who's still thinks he's the same age as what he was when he played, so he's still drinking like he's a young man and chasing ladies around on the East Coast. Phil Lamb's around about the place and gets to an occasional game, but we thought he'd lost him to Claremont for a while. The Eastern States boys like Crutchy and Selzy take every opportunity to get over when they get an invite, so they're always good. Greg Carpenter, who's running the turf club over in Victoria, has moved on and obviously does very well because he's pretty rounded out nowadays. Carl Langdon, you obviously hear him around the place, so he doesn't get to too many games, but he's a Subi boy deep down. I see him at the W Bowling Club off Saturday every now and again for a bet and a beer. And there's a few down south, I suppose, Warren Deans, Peter Featherby, I think, has moved to Queensland now. But we stay in touch, bump into them, and the feeling's still great, and we reminisce when we do get an opportunity. So
I think the thing I'm looking forward most to is just going back to footy and hopefully as little changes as possible to the way the Subiaco Footy Club runs. I think we're quite fortunate in the way that it's set up with having our reserves team there and having a squad of almost 60 players. And I'd like to see that to continue. So having other AFL talent come back would be, for a player at the club, I guess that's probably not something that you get that excited about. You've already got guys there that you love playing footy with. Playing with the best quality players you can is exciting, but we have a pretty rich talent there at the moment. So getting back and just being a part of the squad that we already have and being able to hopefully get this season back on track and have a chance to defend our championship or premiership is what I'm excited about. And just getting stuck back in. If there are significant changes, I guess that could be exciting and present different opportunities for us, and have some other players back, potentially that have already played with the club. But yeah, just getting back to footy how I knew it is probably the thing that keeps me motivated and gets me exciting. And